Everything surrounding the Marathon Burger grand opening has been loud, tense, and exploding all over the internet. One minute, people were celebrating the growth of Nipsey Hussle's legacy and the expansion of his brand, and the next minute, the conversation flipped into a heated online battle that nobody saw coming.
That was your decision, Black Sam. You intelligent as a businessman, but you making dumb decisions.
Recently, Wack 100 jumped right into the middle of the drama and openly called out Black Sam, pointing fingers over the chaos tied to the incident at Marathon Burger that reportedly left one person who later passed away and several others injured. The story spread fast, and suddenly the situation became one of the most talked about topics across hip-hop commentary pages and discussion channels. Now, to be fair, a lot of what people are saying right now comes from opinions, reactions, and different interpretations from people watching everything unfold online.
So sorry, but we're not set up. Yeah, we got one for you. We got a lot of work.
Still, Wack 100 insists the issue runs deeper than just one moment. In his view, he believes Black Sam has been bringing unnecessary tension and spotlight to events that were supposed to be positive milestones, especially when it came to the opening of the Marathon Burger location. That claim alone lit up the internet instantly. One example Wack kept bringing up involves Rockstar 2800. According to the version of the story being discussed online, Rockstar had simply stopped by the Marathon Burger spot to grab some food and show support for the opening. But things reportedly got tense when Black Sam confronted him. The reason behind the tension? It reportedly started because Rockstar had spoken with Wack 100 during conversations on Clubhouse. That detail alone apparently didn't sit well with Black Sam. From Sam's point of view, some people believe he felt that anyone closely connected to Nipsey Hussle should not be interacting with Wack at all, especially given the long history of disagreements surrounding those circles. But Wack saw the situation in a completely different way. He argued that if Rockstar speaking with him was truly such a serious problem, then why turn it into a public confrontation during the grand opening?
Oh, for the very same thing, he escorted Crackstar across the street on, talking to me.
In Wack's opinion, that kind of moment only brought extra chaos and unwanted attention to an event that was supposed to be about celebration and community support. Then Wack pushed the conversation even further and started accusing Black Sam of being inconsistent. He pointed to another recent premiere event where Sam was reportedly seen around people that Wack claims he has also spoken with, interviewed, or even collaborated with on podcasts. That's when Wack started throwing around the word hypocrite during the discussion. His argument was pretty direct. If speaking with him is considered a serious issue, then why does it only become a problem for certain people and not others? The example he highlighted involved P. Nice. Wack recently had a podcast conversation with P. Nice.
P. Nice talks to me. He just did a podcast.
And according to Wack, there didn't appear to be any public reaction from Black Sam about that situation. But when it came to Rockstar 2800 speaking with him, that's when the confrontation reportedly happened. From Wack's perspective, that looks like selective outrage. Of course, this is mainly coming from Wack's side of the conversation, and the full story likely has more layers depending on who you ask. But one thing is clear, Wack feels very strongly about it. In fact, Wack didn't hold back at all when he started speaking about the situation publicly. He made it clear that in his opinion, some of the negative attention surrounding the Marathon Burger events could have been avoided. According to him, certain reactions only made the situation bigger and louder instead of calming things down before it spiraled.
And you gave him the first burger from the Marathon Long Beach store, and you did an interview with him. Hey, great. Because I don't think there's nothing wrong with people that talk to me personally. I ain't said nothing wrong. Point out where I didn't say a lot.
That's when Wack decided to address Black Sam directly. During his remarks, he spoke openly and didn't soften his words at all. The things he said quickly caught the attention of people all across the hip-hop community, and suddenly, everyone was watching closely to see how this situation would unfold. When people look at everything involving Black Sam, the reactions are completely split down the middle. Some people believe he handled things exactly the way a loyal brother and strong leader would. Others feel the entire situation could have been approached in a different way, especially considering the level of influence and visibility he holds today. That's where the real debate begins. One side of the conversation argues that Black Sam may have simply been trying to prevent problems before they started.
Harvey got water died is what it is. Okay, we move forward. If you would.
From that perspective, the belief is that he was attempting to escort certain individuals away from the Marathon Burger location, so tensions wouldn't build if rival groups happened to show up. In other words, some supporters see it as a move meant to calm the situation down before anything serious could happen. In a city like Los Angeles, where long-standing rivalries can sometimes spill into public places, some supporters say stepping in early might have been the quickest way to keep things under control. But the other side of the debate raises a very different point. Critics argue that Black Sam isn't just another person standing outside a restaurant anymore. Today, Black Sam isn't just a regular person standing in the crowd. He's a business owner, a public figure, and someone responsible for protecting a brand that carries the powerful legacy of Nipsey Hussle. Because of that, some people believe his role now should lean more toward leadership and management, instead of personally stepping into heated situations when tensions rise.
They never approached him and marked him out and escorted him across the street like the buster he is, then that bad publicity would have never been on the spot.
Think about it like this. Major events like the Marathon Burger grand opening usually have professional security teams in place for a reason. Their entire job is to handle tense moments, escort disruptive individuals away, and keep the environment safe without the owners needing to step directly into the middle of the situation. So when some observers saw Black Sam getting involved himself, it immediately sparked questions online. People started wondering if that was the best move for someone in his position, especially when the spotlight is already so bright around anything connected to Nipsey's legacy. Another argument people keep bringing up is that when you're running a growing business empire, perception becomes extremely important. Black Sam isn't only representing himself anymore. He's representing a brand tied to Nipsey's vision of community ownership, economic growth, and building something positive for the neighborhood.
That was your decision, Black Sam. You intelligent as a businessman, but you making dumb decisions.
Because of that, some critics believe moments like this can attract the wrong kind of attention to a place that's supposed to symbolize progress and opportunity. But supporters push back against that criticism just as strongly. They point out that Black Sam experienced the loss of his brother in a very public and painful way. For many people, that kind of loss can change how someone moves through life. From their perspective, loyalty and protecting what Nipsey built may always come first.
You get to the finish line and then you pissing on the product.
Even if that means stepping in personally when things start getting tense. In that moment, some people say Black Sam wasn't thinking like a CEO or a businessman at all. He was reacting like family, and that distinction matters to a lot of people watching this situation unfold. For them, it wasn't about business strategy or public image. It was about loyalty and emotion connected to someone he lost. Then the conversation took another sharp turn when Wack 100 started bringing up comments Black Sam made during a discussion with P. Knight. According to Wack, certain things said during that conversation didn't fully match the public image that has been built around the Marathon brand.
Why? And then I'm tripping. Every time the camera on the Black Sam is standing by the people from the mayor office or the people from the radio station or the other prominent people, you see all the ninjas trying to get in there. Look, they security.
For years, the message connected to Marathon and Nipsey Hussle's legacy has focused on growth, elevation, ownership, and moving past street conflicts. That vision of building businesses and empowering the community is what many people believe Nipsey stood for. But during that interview, Black Sam spoke very emotionally about Eric Holder, the man responsible for the situation that led to Nipsey Hussle losing his life. During the conversation, Sam expressed deep anger and frustration. At one point, he even said that if Eric Holder were ever free, he would want to confront him personally. It was clearly a statement coming from pain that still hasn't fully healed. Wack 100 used that moment to argue that the message didn't completely align with the business-focused direction the Marathon brand is trying to push forward. From Wack's perspective, if the goal is to build major companies and keep expanding the Marathon name, then mixing intense street energy with major business launches could create unnecessary complications. His argument is that the corporate world and the street world don't always move smoothly together.
But if you look at the thumbnail on this segment here, Black Sam is kneeling behind a car while shots being fired, and ain't none of the ninjas around. Ain't nobody like, damn, hold on, cover Sam.
Of course, this is just one interpretation of the situation. Many supporters believe Black Sam's reaction is completely understandable considering everything he's been through. As the debate kept spreading online, the conversation quickly turned into something much bigger than just one moment at a restaurant opening. It became a larger discussion about leadership, loyalty, grief, and what it really means to carry on a legacy as big as Nipsey Hussle's. Some voices in the hip-hop community believe people are being too quick to judge Black Sam without fully understanding the weight he carries every day. Since Nipsey's passing, Sam has been one of the main people responsible for protecting the Marathon brand, expanding the businesses, and making sure the vision Nipsey talked about actually continues to grow. That's not a small responsibility at all. Every move he makes is watched closely, criticized online, and debated across podcasts, live streams, and social media pages. Because of that spotlight, even small situations can suddenly turn into massive conversations overnight. Supporters say that pressure alone could make any situation feel more intense.
I'm gonna ask you one more question about that situation. Without saying too much, just like yes, in or out.
Right.
Who did it to your brother? Would you rather him went to jail or stayed on the streets?
When emotions are already tied to family, legacy, and community, reactions can come from a very real place. From their perspective, it's easy for people on the internet to analyze things calmly after the fact. But being there in the moment is a completely different experience. At the same time, critics continue to argue that the Marathon brand now represents something much bigger than the streets it came from. They believe every public moment connected to the business has to be handled carefully because it reflects on Nipsey's long-term vision of ownership, unity, and economic growth. That's really where the divide sits. One side sees a brother protecting his family's legacy with passion and loyalty. The other side believes leadership at that level requires distance from heated moments, so the focus stays on business and progress. And as this conversation continues spreading across the hip-hop world, one thing is clear. People are paying very close attention to how the Marathon legacy continues moving forward. Losing a brother in such a public and painful way leaves emotional scars that don't just disappear overnight. That kind of loss stays with someone. And many people watching this situation understand that reality. Grief, loyalty, and responsibility can all collide in complicated ways, especially when the entire world is watching every move.
I think you know that. You know that answer.
Yeah.
Definitely, you asked it, so it's like I don't have to answer that question because I
All you
hope,
gotta do is say streets, that's it.
I
You ain't gotta go into detail.
I'm gonna go into detail just because I would hope people know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Like like me, 1000% wish the man was still out here.
Right.
Because it have been X'd out.
What many people also agree on is that Los Angeles can be unpredictable. Even people with influence, connections, and strong reputations aren't immune to sudden situations. The story of Nipsey Hussle itself showed how quickly circumstances can change, even for someone who was widely respected and admired throughout the community. Because of that history, some observers believe Black Sam likely moves with a certain level of caution and awareness that outsiders might not fully understand. From their point of view, protecting Nipsey's legacy, protecting the Marathon businesses, and protecting the people around him are all part of the same mission happening at the same time. Critics, however, argue that as the Marathon brand continues expanding with new locations, new partnerships, and bigger opportunities, the pressure to operate strictly as a business leader will only grow. Balancing those two identities, the street roots and the corporate growth, is something many entrepreneurs from similar backgrounds have struggled with for years. But one thing most people seem to agree on is this: the bond between Nipsey Hussle and Black Sam was real. Many fans believe they truly had each other's backs, and now that Nipsey is gone, some supporters feel Sam carries the responsibility of protecting that legacy almost entirely on his own. Whether people agree with every move Black Sam makes or not, the emotions tied to this story show just how powerful Nipsey Hussle's impact still is. Years later, conversations about his vision, his business ideas, and the people closest to him continue to spark huge debates across the culture. That alone shows how deeply his message still resonates with fans, entrepreneurs, and the entire hip-hop community. One thing that keeps coming up in discussions around this situation is the reality of how unpredictable Los Angeles can be. People who truly understand the city keep repeating the same message again and again. Nobody is completely untouchable out there.
Here's the thing, but also let's be honest. If we're saying hit, we need now to be very clear. You're saying a hit. So this guy didn't have money for a proper lawyer, basically got damn near life in prison. You don't think if the police had barely or even half credible information, you don't think this guy would tell on Big U? This is what I be saying. Everybody snitched but the guy who you really think got paid for a hit.
It doesn't matter how much respect someone has earned, how much money they've made, or how many powerful connections they've built over the years. All it takes is the wrong moment, a misunderstanding, or someone feeling disrespected, and suddenly tension can appear where there was none before. That's exactly why some observers believe putting aggressive energy into public situations can sometimes cause things to spiral much faster than expected. Words move fast, especially in today's digital world. One comment quickly turns into a headline, the headline turns into speculation, and before long, the entire internet is arguing about what really happened. And once social media gets involved, everything speeds up even more. From that perspective, some commentators say Wack 100's warning might not have been about defending one side or attacking another. Instead, they view it as a reminder of how quickly rumors, reactions, and narratives can spread the moment a situation hits the public spotlight. As the discussion keeps spreading across social media, podcasts, and hip-hop commentary platforms, one thing becomes very clear. This situation is about more than just a single moment at the Marathon Burger opening. It has turned into a wider conversation about legacy, leadership, and the pressure that comes with carrying forward something as powerful as Nipsey Hussle's vision. For many fans, Nipsey represented a shift in mindset within hip-hop culture. He wasn't just known for music. He pushed ideas about ownership, community investment, and building businesses that could create long-term opportunities for people in the neighborhood. Because of that, anything connected to the Marathon name now carries a deeper meaning. That's why every situation tied to the brand gets examined so closely online. People aren't just looking at the moment itself, they're looking at what it represents for the future of the Marathon movement. Some believe protecting that legacy sometimes requires being firm and standing on principles. Others believe the best way to honor Nipsey's message is by staying focused strictly on growth, strategy, and business expansion.
Who got paid for a hit? You're the first to snitch. Duh, like why wouldn't he tell? Like, here's my thing. We're talking about all of the snitches in hip-hop who basically never killed nobody, and they're still telling. Why would the guy who did the murder not tell? If he did it on behalf of somebody else. And then they could verify. Okay, how did you get paid? When did you communicate? Blah, 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 blah. Let's check everything.
And that difference in perspective is exactly what keeps fueling the debate. One side sees passion, loyalty, and someone protecting what his brother built. The other side sees the challenges that come with transitioning from street influence into a fully structured business empire. But regardless of which side people lean toward, the larger message remains the same. The Marathon brand continues to hold massive cultural weight. Every move connected to it becomes part of a bigger story about legacy, resilience, and the ongoing effort to turn Nipsey Hussle's ideas into real, lasting success for the community. That's why moments like this don't just fade away quietly. They become part of a bigger conversation that the culture keeps watching closely. Strong statements hit social media, and suddenly everyone starts interpreting them in their own way. One person hears frustration, another hears a challenge, and someone else might take it as a signal that something bigger is happening behind the scenes. Once speculation begins spreading through both the internet and real-world conversations at the same time, the story can grow far beyond what was originally said. That's when things start getting complicated. Even when nobody involved actually intends for a situation to escalate, the conversation around it can begin building its own momentum. One comment turns into a reaction. That reaction sparks new theories, and before long, the entire narrative starts taking on its own life. For example, There have already been whispers circulating online about situations involving people connected to Eric Holder's family. None of those claims have been publicly confirmed, but the fact that those rumors started spreading shows how quickly speculation can grow once emotions and curiosity mix together. And when people begin feeling like they're being watched closely or talked about across the internet, that's when tension and suspicion can start creeping into the picture. Situations that might have stayed small suddenly feel much bigger because everyone is paying attention. That's one reason some voices in the community believe leaders who are building businesses and expanding brands usually try to stay a few steps removed from street conflicts. The higher someone climbs in the business world, the more their words, reactions, and decisions are examined under a microscope. And when someone is carrying a legacy as powerful as Nipsey Hussle's, that spotlight becomes even brighter. Right now, Black Sam isn't just moving as an individual anymore. He's helping manage a growing business brand, opening new locations, and protecting something that represents years of work, community pride, and a powerful blueprint for ownership. That blueprint of ownership and independence is exactly what Nipsey Hussle always talked about. Because of that vision, the expectations around Black Sam's role have naturally grown over time. Some observers believe he now carries the responsibility of balancing two different worlds at the same time, honoring where he came from while also pushing the Marathon brand into a much bigger business space. Of course, none of that means anyone expects him to forget what happened to his brother. Losing a sibling under circumstances like that is something that stays with a person forever. The pain connected to that kind of loss doesn't simply disappear with time. And many supporters believe it's completely understandable that loyalty, frustration, and strong emotions could still run deep even years later. But at the same time, others argue that stepping fully into the role of a major business leader sometimes requires a different approach when speaking publicly. When someone starts operating like a mogul, opening multiple stores, creating opportunities, and expanding a powerful brand, the pressure grows to keep the spotlight on growth, progress, and the future, rather than past conflicts. Some commentators describe it as creating several layers of separation between business leadership and street-level disputes, not because the history disappears, but because protecting the future of the brand sometimes requires a different strategy and a calmer public image.
And in a city like Los Angeles, where tensions can shift quickly and situations can change without warning, that kind of distance can sometimes help prevent unnecessary problems before they even begin. When Black Sam spoke during that interview and said he would react strongly if Eric Holder were ever free, many listeners believe those words came from a very real place. To them, it didn't sound like someone speaking for attention. It sounded like a brother expressing deep emotion, loyalty, and pain that still hasn't fully healed. That moment from the interview quickly became another major talking point across hip-hop media and online discussions. Some people replayed the clip and focused on the emotion behind Black Sam's words, saying it showed just how deep the pain still runs years after Nipsey Hussle's passing. For them, it wasn't shocking at all. It sounded like the voice of someone who lost a brother and still carries that weight every single day. Others, however, looked at the situation from a completely different angle. They argued that when someone is leading a brand as important as the Marathon movement, every public statement carries extra weight. In today's digital world, even a few emotional sentences from an interview can spread across thousands of pages, channels, and social media posts within hours. That's why some commentators believe people in leadership positions have to constantly think about how their words might travel once they leave the room. A comment made during a conversation can quickly turn into headlines, debates, and endless speculation online. Still, supporters of Black Sam push back strongly against that criticism. They argue that expecting someone to completely remove emotion from a situation like this isn't realistic. Nipsey wasn't just a business partner or a public figure to Sam. He was family, a brother he grew up with and built dreams alongside. For many fans, that context changes everything. They see Black Sam not just as a businessman managing a brand, but as someone trying to protect and continue the mission that Nipsey started long before the cameras and headlines ever showed up. That's why conversations around the marathon legacy often carry so much emotion and intensity. It's not only about restaurants, stores, or business expansions. For a lot of people, it represents loyalty, resilience, and the determination to keep building something positive even after facing an unimaginable loss. And as the brand continues expanding and new chapters of the marathon story unfold, the spotlight around every move connected to Nipsey's legacy is likely to stay just as strong. As the conversation keeps evolving, many people are starting to look at the bigger picture behind everything that's happening. The Marathon brand has grown far beyond a single store or a local neighborhood business. What started as a powerful idea from Nipsey Hussle has slowly turned into a movement that people all across the country recognize and support. Because of that growth, every situation connected to the brand ends up under a microscope. Fans, critics, bloggers, and commentators all begin breaking down every detail, trying to understand what it means for the future of the Marathon legacy. In today's world of non-stop social media coverage, even a small moment can explode into a huge discussion overnight. Some people watching from the outside believe the real challenge for Black Sam is navigating that level of attention while still staying true to the values Nipsey built everything on. Nipsey often spoke about ownership, economic independence, and creating real opportunities in communities that are often overlooked. Those ideas inspired a lot of people. And now many supporters want to see that vision continue growing without distractions.
At the same time, others point out that building something meaningful doesn't happen without pressure and difficult moments. Expanding businesses, managing public expectations, and protecting a powerful legacy can bring challenges that most people never have to deal with. That's why situations like the Marathon Burger grand opening end up carrying more weight than a typical business launch. It's not just about selling food or opening a new location. For many supporters, it represents another step in continuing the dream Nipsey talked about for years. And because that dream meant so much to so many people, emotions will always run high whenever the Marathon name is involved. Every headline, every interview, and every public moment connected to the brand becomes part of a much larger story about legacy, resilience, and the ongoing effort to turn Nipsey Hussle's vision into something that lasts for generations. Some commentators even said they believe Black Sam meant every word he said. From their perspective, it didn't sound like empty talk or someone trying to create attention. Instead, it came across as raw honesty, the kind of emotion people often express when family is involved, and the pain still runs deep. Still, others point out that once statements like that start circulating publicly, reactions can begin coming from all different directions. Some people may hear those words and feel defensive, while others may start worrying about what those comments could mean moving forward. That's where situations sometimes begin to spiral into rumors, speculation, and people preparing for scenarios that might never actually happen. Once that cycle of online discussion and street conversation starts building momentum, controlling the narrative becomes extremely difficult. Because of that, some voices in the community keep encouraging leaders connected to Nipsey's legacy to keep the spotlight focused on business expansion, community impact, and positive growth instead of conflict. Their argument is simple. The stronger the Marathon brand becomes, the more powerful Nipsey's original vision continues to be. Another topic people keep bringing up is the crowd that shows up at big public events like the Marathon Burger grand openings. These events are meant to celebrate success, bring supporters together, and highlight progress within the community. But the reality is that when an event is open to the public, anyone can appear. Supporters, loyal fans, curious visitors, influencers, and sometimes people connected to long-standing rivalries can all end up in the same place at the same time. And once that many personalities gather in one location, managing the atmosphere becomes much harder than it might seem from the outside. That's why some commentators say real control doesn't always come from who walks through the door. It comes from who is allowed into the inner circle around the brand. That idea of controlling the inner circle is something many successful brands eventually have to face. As a business grows bigger, the number of people trying to get close to it also grows. Supporters want to be part of the movement. Influencers want to be seen around it. And sometimes individuals show up simply because the spotlight is there. For a brand like Marathon, the attention is even stronger because it represents much more than a normal business. To many fans, it symbolizes independence, ownership, and the belief that people from the community can build something powerful without relying on traditional systems. Because of that meaning, every public event connected to the brand naturally attracts huge crowds and a wide mix of personalities. Some come with genuine support and respect for Nipsey Hussle's legacy. Others may simply be curious about the attention surrounding the brand. And when large groups gather with different motivations, managing the energy of the situation can become complicated very quickly.
That's why experienced business leaders often put strong teams in place to handle security, public relations, and event management. The goal is to create an environment where supporters can celebrate safely while keeping unnecessary distractions away from the spotlight. Some commentators believe as the Marathon brand continues expanding, those layers of structure will only become more important. New locations, bigger crowds, and increasing media attention all bring new challenges that require careful planning and leadership. At the same time, many supporters believe the passion behind the brand is exactly what makes it special. The Marathon story didn't begin inside a corporate boardroom. It started in the neighborhood, built through real relationships, real struggles, and real determination to create something meaningful. That's why emotions still run so strong whenever the brand is involved. For many people, it's not just about food, clothing, or business expansion. It represents a legacy that fans want to see protected, respected, and continued for years to come. And as every new chapter unfolds, the conversation around the Marathon movement keeps growing louder, because the world is still watching how Nipsey Hussle's vision continues to move forward. The people closest to any operation often have the biggest influence on the overall energy surrounding it. Because of that, some observers believe that carefully choosing who stands around the brand could help reduce tension moving forward. If certain affiliations have historically brought unwanted attention or unnecessary drama, some people think it might make sense to create a little distance from those circles. Of course, that's just one opinion in a much bigger conversation. Every situation has multiple layers, and people watching the same moment can walk away with completely different interpretations. That's exactly why this discussion keeps evolving as more voices, perspectives, and reactions get added to the mix. At the end of the day, this entire situation highlights how complicated things can become when street history, personal loyalty, public perception, and business expansion all collide at the same time. Few brands carry the kind of emotional weight that the Marathon name does. Nipsey Hussle's legacy still holds massive meaning for fans all over the world, and anyone connected to that legacy continues to move under a spotlight that rarely turns off. Every decision, every public moment, and every headline becomes part of a larger story that people are watching very closely. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Black Sam is handling the pressure the right way as the Marathon brand keeps growing? Or do you think things could be approached differently moving forward? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who follows hip-hop news. Your support really helps the channel grow and keeps these conversations going. Also, don't leave just yet. Check out the next video appearing on your screen right now. It dives even deeper into the latest hip-hop stories and new developments connected to this situation. Tap that video and I'll see you in the next one.